есіне алып, жаңағы еңбекті бағалап, үмітті ақтап деген сияқты. Себебі шынымен енді біз қазір индустрияда көп байқап жатамыз ғой. Дос Мұқасан енді біздің
қатысушылар қатты тұрмыстық қалдықтарды сұрыптау және тиімді басқару, орталық Азияның жасыл белдеуін дамыту, елді мекендерді көгалдандыру,
воркшопы и AI-хакатон. В Казахстане напомнили о санитарных требованиях к школьным учебникам. Перед поступлением в школы книги проходят экспертизу. Специалисты проверяют вес, качество бумаги и печати, шрифт и прочность переплета. Например, учебник для младших классов должен весить не более 300 граммов, а для старшеклассников не более 600. Отдельные требования действуют для электронных учебников. В основном тексте запрещены узкий и курсивный шрифт, красный фон, анимационные эффекты и переносы слов. Выпуск подготовлен по материалам агентства Казинформ.
Девочка моя, ты была права.
Отметил специалист по недвижимости Александр Бикетов. По его мнению, арендные квадратные метры в цене падать не будут. Причина тому инфляция и постоянно растущий спрос. Президент США Дональд Трамп заявил, что лидер КНДР Ким Чен Ын ответил на его предложение возобновить прямой диалог, сообщает Retekess. Позже в Госдепартаменте США подтвердили, что Вашингтон готов к переговорам с Пхеньяном. Накануне Дональд Трамп поручил Пентагону существенно сократить совместные военные учения США и Южной Кореи. Он назвал маневры дорогостоящими и заявил, что они посылают КНДР совершенно неуместный и враждебный сигнал. По словам президента, при нем Северная Корея не представляет угрозы и проявляет уважение. Решение сократить учения он также связал с отказом Сеула участвовать в действиях США против Ирана. Опрошенные Retekess эксперты считают, что новая встреча лидеров США и КНДР возможна. По их мнению, она позволила бы Ким Чен Ыну укрепить международный статус. При этом, благодаря поддержке Москвы и Пекина, ему практически нечего терять. Котировки производителя чипов памяти Микрон подскочили на торгах 17 августа на 6% после интервью министра торговли США Говарда Латника The Wall Street Journal. Администрация выступает против того, чтобы Apple закупала такие чипы в Китае, сказал он. Американские депозитарные расписки одного из лидеров рынка южнокорейского конкурента Микрон SK Hynix подорожали примерно на 7%. Акции производителя флеш-памяти SanDisk прибавили 9,2%, возглавив рост в индексе S&P 500. Котировки производителей систем хранения данных Seagate и Western Digital поднялись на 1,8% и 5% соответственно. А стоимость чипмейкера Marvell увеличилась на 7,3%. Далее в выпуске о погоде на завтра. В столице республики Астане пасмурно, дождь, плюс 20 градусов. В Алматы переменная облачность, есть вероятность дождя, плюс 32 градуса. В Шымкенте солнечно и тепло, 33 градуса тепла. Вы слушали новости на Бизнес ФМ. Оставайтесь с нами.
Приняли участие около 1000 человек, представители сферы образования.
И не поверишь, там Новый год 2 раза в год.
Африка, Испания, Мехико, Джапан, Корея.
Labor Türkmen Parti
Məsuliyyətçilikini namoyon qildi. 20 yildan buyon Jongoning iqtisod umumiy miqdori dunyo bo'yicha 6-o'rindan 2-o'ringa o'tdi. Mol savdosi dunyo bo'yicha 6-o'rin 1-o'ringa o'tdi.
Халықтың қызметкері болу танымын күшті. Шыны дәуірдегі партияның бұқаралық миссияның қолдауды жүргізіп, халыққа сүйеніп
在一个手势了解，包括对队员还在一个手势了解过程当中，我觉得就是这节目总体上也是因为北京国安是最近包括那个足协杯和联赛双胜已经连续4场不败了，整体的状态非常好，可以看得出来就是。
这个部队作为福建省唯一一支参赛队伍，参加环美是0分。
在我身边的就是这样。
可是童子军在7月4年的时候，就由于受到当时严官上司
Jongo Communistik Partiyasining rahbarligida bosh ko'tarib jafoga chidab qaysarlik
सदर व्लादिमीर पुतिन के जजीरे अतराफ के दौरे पर एहतजाज के हवाले से कहा है कि जापान आलमी कानून को अपने और अपने इत्तेहादी अमेरिका के मफादात के मुताबिक दोबारा लिखने, तारीखी जिम्मेदारियों से बचने और अपने ही आइन के खिलाफ वर्जी की कोशिश कर रहा है। लारोफ ने कहा कि से जाहिर होता है कि जापान जौहरी उसूलों से मुनहरफ होना चाहता है और जापान के सेल्फ डिफेंस फोर्सेस अपने
不为所有一个地方，如果这个地方的山水非常美丽。
I think a lot of opportunities for win-win. The Belt and Road Initiative and other initiatives from China dovetails very well with our Agenda 2063 because Agenda 2063, yes, it's a 50-year plan, but it is a plan that was constructed through very close consultation between and among Africans. And what we see in terms of synergy is when you look at the China's 15 5-year plan or you look at the Belt and Road Initiative, it provides a great deal of opportunities for us to leverage our partnerships to ensure that we can benefit both ways. Africa has abundant natural resources. China has mastered, I think, the technology in a lot of areas. And in this new 5-year plan, China's aspiration is for self-reliance in the area of science and technology. So what we are hoping for and what we are working towards is beyond hope. Working with China is to ensure that we translate our programs, our strategies into tangible actions. And we're already seeing it on the ground. I think for us, we look forward to modernizing African economies just as China has done over the last 40 years. I think what you've done here in this country is anything but a miracle. It has not been done in human history. That you've been able to lift over 600 million people out of poverty to where China is today. And the African continent finds itself in the position that China was 40 years ago. But we have the advantage of actually we can leapfrog in terms of technology, and working with China, we can actually make faster progress and faster headway on a lot of these areas, whether it's in the areas of technology, infrastructure, energy, agriculture, and human capital development. But more critically, I think China is perhaps the global leader today when it comes to renewable energies. If you look at the number of the progress that you have made in the area of renewable energy, electric vehicles, we are ready to partner and to work with China to ensure that our development is sensitive to the climate, because we are the victims of the effects of climate change. Unfortunately, we only contributed less than 5% of global warming, but we are paying a very high price in the Sahel, in the Horn of Africa, and other parts of the African continent. The price of climate change, the consequences are quite significant.
Tell us about it, the unproportional suffering of climate change on Africa and the Africans through perhaps no fault of their own.
Absolutely. I think our contribution to global emissions, the scientists will tell you, is modest, almost insignificant. But we bear the brunt of it. If you look at the drought cycles in the Sahel, you look at the drought cycles in the Horn of Africa, and the drought cycles even in Southern Africa, what we are increasingly seeing is those are shortening from what used to be every 7 or 5 years you have drought. Now almost every 2 or 3 years you have droughts. And what this does, it devastates livelihoods in these regions. And then that also has the knock-on effect of exacerbating intercommunal tensions that will then lead to conflicts and instability in some of those affected areas. But we have clear programs and strategies, and we hope to work with China in taking forward initiatives like what we call the Great Green Wall, trying to manage the growth and the expansion of the Sahara Desert. I think here in China you've done a very good job in responding to the expansion of the desert in Inner Mongolia, and we have to partner with you, and we're ready to partner with you.
Western part of China, where we're building the Great Wall, to some success, the reversion of desertification that is turning into a tourist spot right now.
And this is what we are looking to do, whether it is in the Sahara Desert, whether it is in the Kalahari or the Namib Desert, in different parts of the African continent. We are determined to ensure that we reverse this tide where agricultural lands are being consumed by the desert, which is expanding at a very exponential rate. So we need the technology and the know-how, and China, I have no doubt, stands ready to partner with us on this. We're already in discussions with the various Chinese government departments that deal with this.
We've been talking about value added, the importance of having higher values for the products and services that you provide. But what have been the sticking points, for Africa over the decades, where it remained relatively low in the supply chain when it comes to industrialization?
I think one of the concepts that I can say we embraced, and it was a mistake to embrace it, this concept of saying the comparative advantage. So your comparative advantage is in producing raw materials, unprocessed coffee, unprocessed diamonds, unprocessed, iron ore, you name it.
Sierra Leone has a lot of diamonds.
We have a lot of diamonds. We have iron ore and bauxite in Sierra Leone, as is, in different parts of the continent. That was a mistake, and we are now moving ahead to say comparative advantage has not done us any good. So we are now going to look at how are we going to transform our African continent. And when you say what were some of the challenges, in the process, what we saw, intellectual property rights stood in the way, copyright issues. So those with the technology monopolized that technology and were not willing or in a position to share the technology with a continent like Africa. And I think China learned from that also in the last 4 decades. You've been able to adapt a lot of technology that has actually benefited and propelled your development. So we are looking at learning the lessons that we think are applicable to our particular circumstances. I am not advocating for a one-size-fits-all. China is not Africa, and Africa is not China, and Africa is also diverse. China is one country. In Africa, we have 55, and 53 of them have diplomatic ties with China. So the diversities and the unique nature of the development trajectory of the African continent will definitely be materially different from what you've been able to do here in China. But most certainly there are lessons that we can learn and we can draw from the Chinese development model.
We've talked to a number of African leaders who oftentimes complain about the interest that African countries, their governments, have to repay, that it has become a very big burden to the finances of many African governments. They're pointing to international organizations who, says one thing and doing another in reality. How do you...
自地震发生以来，当地已经记录到995次余震。据印尼媒体16号报道，印尼东努沙登加拉。